guest speaker. We've met through Simon. She was a Broadway actress, a director, a choreographer. She actually runs the Waldman studio, which focuses on presentation coaching and things of that nature. But if you all could give me a hand in welcoming Jen.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Jen. Before I get started, can everyone hear me without the mic? Would it be easier or better for you if I use the mic? Is that better? Okay, then we're gonna go with the mic. So, thanks for that. All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I was really impressed a couple weeks ago. James gave me a tour of the company and the space and kind of talked about your core values and your why. And I just found the whole thing incredibly impressive, that it's not just talking the talk, but you actually walk the walk here at Next Jump. So it's really exciting to know that there are companies like this out in the world. I'm happy to share my ideas with you. So what I'm here to talk about today is the art of public presentation. So how many of you actually have had the experience of giving a presentation before? Okay, so that's almost everyone. Now go ahead and raise your hands if you found that experience to be a challenging one. Okay, so that's probably a little more than half of you, which I think is pretty normal. Getting up in front of people and sharing your ideas can be a really scary thing to do. So my hope today is to share with you some tools to make that a bit easier. So a couple years ago, I had applied for an executive leadership position at an artistic institution, and the Board of Trustees had narrowed down their search to a couple finalists, and of which I was one. And I had been asked to do several presentations. The final one was going to be an hour with community members, and the only directive I got was help them get to know you. So 60 minutes of help them get to know you. So the first thing I did was I wrote a script. I thought to myself, what do people need to know in order to get to know me? So I wrote everything down. I made sense of it. I had a great narrative going on. And then I arrived at the event, and I saw the audience starting to trickle in, and I started to feel really nervous. And I don't get nervous that easily, so I felt like something was wrong. And if any of you have worked with Simon, he may have shared this idea with you that there's a lot of similarities between feeling nervous and feeling excited, and you really get to choose how you frame those things. In this case, it didn't feel like excitement to me. It felt like a lack of preparation, which made no sense because I had written out my whole script. So I excused myself. I went to the ladies' room to collect my thoughts, and while I was in there, I thought to myself, what am I doing? I started with why. I knew why I was there. The board trustees knew why I was there. That was how I got to be a finalist for this position in the first place. I had a vision for where I wanted to lead this organization to. And I knew my what, which was the presentation, but I hadn't even stopped to consider how I was actually going to deliver the content. So in that moment, I committed to myself to go with the hows that I know. And I tore up my script, and I threw it in the trash, and then I went out and I spoke extemporaneously for 60 minutes. And the three things that I committed to that day were eye contact, staying on my voice, and staying in my body, so that I was free to share the things that inspired me so that I can inspire other people. So today, what I want to do is talk about simple, practical tools that you can use in order to free your mind, free your body, free your voice, so that you can share the things that inspire you. And this is not just for presenting, this is like an everyday thing. These are things you can practice when you go to Starbucks, when you get into a taxi, when you're talking to your mom. These are things that we do all day, every day. And in fact, nothing I'm sharing today is new information. You are already an expert in talking. And by the way, talking extemporaneously, that's what we do in our conversations all the time. You're already an expert in moving your body. You're already an expert at thinking.
So I'm just going to give you some tools so that you can make strong choices for communicating. So I'm going to break the day down into these 3 sections. First, we'll focus on the voice, then we're going to focus on the body, and then we'll free our minds. All right. And we have some volunteers today who are going to help us with that. So thank you in advance to Francesca and to DeVille. Hey, because they're going to be really brave and get up and share some thoughts with you, and then we'll play around and make some adjustments and see what works and what doesn't, and how we can make some changes. So before I get into those things, I know you all work with Simon and know Simon, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm going to be talking about hows today. And the what is going to be the words coming out of your mouth and the actions that you take. But if you don't start with why, all of it's irrelevant. So before you start working on any presentation you have to give, or any difficult conversation you have to have, or really anything you do, it's important for you to go back and get in touch with your why so that you can make choices that support that idea. So start with why and show up to give. The only reason to get in front of people and share your ideas is so the other people can have an experience, so the other people can have an aha moment, so that there is a takeaway. So it's very important that you show up with your spirit of generosity intact, show up to give, and lead with your why. Okay, so the great tool of human communication, eye contact. So I have often been accused of speaking in hyperbole by my students at the studio, but I really do believe that if everyone on the planet took the time to look each other in the eye, we may actually be able to achieve world peace. I really do believe that. Eye contact is the great immediate equalizer. It tells me that you see me, you care about what I'm saying, I care about you, and it brings us all together. But for some of us, making eye contact with a room full of strangers can be really, really scary. And in fact, James was kind enough to get some suggestions to help kind of guide this presentation today. And one of the questions that came up was, where do I look? I find myself looking at the floor a lot. So I'm going to encourage you to use eye contact because it brings us together. And with these couple ideas in mind. First of all, I think a lot of us get scared about the eye contact thing because it starts to make the negative voices in our own head start talking. Like, what if I look at people and they don't look like they like me? Or what if I look at people and they don't seem engaged, or someone completely disagrees with what I'm saying? They're shaking their head, they're scowling. So my number one rule with eye contact is find your ally. Like, I immediately sensed you as an ally, so anytime I'm feeling like I might go up on my thoughts or I need somewhere to feel secure, I keep going back here. And the people at this table end up benefiting from that because now I am picking you out. What's your name, by the way?
Emily.
Emily. So Emily and I are besties now. And then I see Tom and I see Francesca, and now this whole trio is feeling included. Now, I don't feel like I have any enemies in this room. This is a very friendly room, but I certainly have been in rooms where I have seen someone shaking their head or getting upset with something that I have to say. And so is anyone here a Frozen fan? No one. Okay. In the words of Elsa, you gotta let it go. Let it go. Or as my daughter likes to say, in the words of Adele Dazeem, let it go. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. So so if you see someone and they don't seem to be getting you, just move on, go back to your ally. Free your enemies and connect to your allies. And you'll start to find that giving those people up who seem to be naysayers gives you a lot of power and motivation to continue to connect with the people who say yes. Great. So when we get the volunteers up here today, we'll look at that. I'm not sure how we're going to do it with DeVille, but you can use your UK folks to make that happen. And I will also say, I have to do a lot of teleconferencing in my work. I do a lot of these kind of group calls. And one of the things that I have found, if you're using your computer, I actually put a little sticky note next to my camera that says, look here, because I'm so trained now to look people in the eye that I start looking their picture in the eye, and then they feel like I'm looking down. So if you're looking into the camera on your computer, just remind yourself right into the camera. Okay, great. So we're going to start talking about our voices and how we carry so much weight and information, not just about the content you're delivering, but about how you feel about your content. And it's really amazing. I happen to be a fan of listening to President Obama speak. Whether or not you agree with his politics, the guy's a great speaker. Just this morning, I was watching some Oprah Winfrey videos. I find Oprah to be incredibly inspiring, and I love listening to her talk. So when I think about what makes those people great speakers, I like to think about what is going on with their voice. And we're going to actually throw some ideas up here on the whiteboard. Is anyone else here a fan of the speeches of the president? No one. Okay, Tom. So can you just throw out for me, when you think about the way President Obama speaks, what does he do? How does he talk? He pauses. He's very slow. Yeah.
Just sounds great.
He does. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Like deliberate.
Deliberate. Confident. Uh-huh. Anything else? Calm. Great. Now think of a great female speaker. Who's your favorite female speaker? Who said Oprah? Yeah. So when you think about Oprah, what are some of the things that you notice about the way she speaks? How does she speak?
Very
Animated.
animated.
Energy.
Uh-huh.
Feels authentic.
Yeah. Anything else? Great. Okay, so it's interesting because here are two great speakers, and the way we describe their style is almost completely opposite of each other. President Obama is slow, he's deliberate, he pauses a lot, he projects confidence. Oprah, animated, full of energy, and also authentic. So these people are true to who they are, and it carries on the voice. So what I want to look at are 3 ideas that can help you get in touch with different ways to use your voice so that you can be as authentic as possible. Okay, so we're going to call this tempo. Some of you might prefer the word speed. Either is fine. And we're going to look at fast, slow, pitch, high to low. And obviously there are degrees and scales of this. And volume. Loud, which helps with the mic, to soft. Okay. So looking at these in terms of this, when you think about President Obama, would you call him a fast or slow talker? Slow. Does he speak in a high or a low pitch? Low. And volume. Does he seem loud or soft? Soft. Great. Wait, did someone say loud? Okay, so soft. And when you think about Oprah Winfrey, does she speak fast or slow? Great. Pitch? Loud. And where does she pitch her voice? Yeah, kind of low. Yeah. Yeah. True. So one of the things I've noticed is that when people are nervous, they tend to increase their tempo, they tend to pitch high, and they tend to get really loud, which is interesting because inside they feel soft. So if you're someone who does suffer from the outward symptoms of nervousness, that may be the first thing you want to go to. Tell yourself, it's time to slow down. I'm going to drop my pitch. Does anyone here have a piano or play piano or any instrument? No instrumentalists here. Wait, didn't you tell me you played something, James? No. Interesting. Well, I have been known to, for myself, get kind of high-pitched when I get nervous. So I actually will like play a note on the keyboard for myself to find what I call my optimal pitch so that I give myself a starting place. But if you don't have an instrument, I'm sorry about it. Okay, and then in terms of volume, I'm gonna bring my volume down. I mean, this is the beauty of a microphone, is you're gonna take care of me if I get too soft. I don't really ever have to worry about getting too loud. So earlier when we were talking about eye contact, I'm gonna quote myself right now because this is something I say a lot in my studio. I believe that if everybody on the planet took the time to look to each other, we could achieve world peace. Exact same content, but there was something missing from it. I didn't seem to believe in it because it was too fast. It was just simply too fast. So when I deliver that to my students all the time, I slow it down because I believe in it. I believe that it's true, that if we all looked at each other, we could potentially achieve world peace. And that's just a matter of tempo, which changes how you feel about the information I'm giving. Because remember, being in front of a group is not about how I feel. It's about how you feel, how you receive the information. So what I want to do is jump over to the UK, which I actually really want to do in life. I would love to jump over to the UK. And DeVille, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Okay, so what I've asked DeVille and Francesca to do is prepare 1 to 2 minutes of content around what they're currently working on at Next Jump. And truly, for our purposes today, the content is really secondary to the delivery of the content. So DeVille, what I'm going to ask you to do is, I've got my stopwatch here. I'm going to ask you to deliver about 60 seconds, and then I'll stop you. And what I'm going to ask all of you to do is just pay attention to how you feel about the content, not about whether or not she's good at presenting it, which we know she's going to be great, but how you are receiving the information that she's putting out. Okay?
Cool. And Jen, do you think I should present to the UK guys? So, like, you know, for the body language and eye contact?
Yes,
voice?
I do. I think that would be great.
Yeah? Okay.
So I don't know if we'll actually see you, but we can hear you. So if you decide you want to do a podcast about this, this will be useful information.
Shall I start or?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah? Okay. Hi, my name is DeVille, and I'm from London office. I'm a captain of a recruitment team, and this is what I'd like to talk more about today. So actually, recruitment is at the center of NextJump's life in Q4. And why? Well, it's the time when we all recruit top talent at universities. Well, top universities. And there are 2 things that excite me the most about recruitment in Q4. And one is actually the fact that we get all next jumpers involved in this process. We all get to participate and pitch next jump, organize fairs. And it makes me so proud listening to next jumpers pitch next jump, you know, talk about why they're proud to be part of this environment. So secondly, I love how we all here at NextJump get to decide whether the person gets to come into our family or not. I think it's so rare that doesn't happen in other organizations. So because of these 2 things, I love the Q4 recruitment-wise, and I know that it's going to be so stressful, manic, and exciting, yet really, really rewarding. Thank you.
That's great. Yay. Excellent. Okay, so folks in the UK, can you talk a bit about how you felt receiving that information?
So first of all, the eye contact was definitely there. Deville was very good at keeping it quite even between 3 or 4 of us here. The other thing that was quite obvious was that she was smiling through that, which made you sort of think that she's actually very passionate about the content, and it was quite comforting to kind of see how much she sort of cared about it.
Great. Would anyone else like to comment?
I also really liked how she changed her pitch. So there was like expression kind of changed from like higher and lower, and I found it was quite like it made me follow it easier.
Great. Anyone else?
Oh, I don't technically belong here, but her energy and enthusiasm like really made me connect with it. So I'm glad I got to see it. And like she was slow and like good pace, and it was like easy to follow what she was saying. So nice work.
Great. Anyone here like to contribute anything to that? How did the presentation make you feel? Did you get a sense that she was confident in what she was talking about? Yes? Yeah, I certainly did. I mean, I think some of the things you excelled at, I'm not sure where to look at this moment. Some of the things that you were great at were really taking care of your tempo so that every single word could be heard. Now, if I were coaching you, which I guess I am in this moment, I would tell you there were some words that felt really important that you could probably, in your sentence, slow down and lean into those words. Like why became a word that you used more than once. So I can't remember the content of the entire sentence, and you might be able to remind me, but why we do what we do, that's a moment where you can slow down to really highlight that word before you pick up your tempo again. You also used you said we recruit from schools, top schools. Something about the word top really jumped out to me as being the distinguishing factor in that sentence. So to either lean into that word with volume or to pull back your tempo, or sometimes you can really make a point by reducing your volume. And then you used the word proud, which is a beautiful word, first of all. Don't we all want to feel proud all the time? And that's one of the things you're offering to people when you're recruiting them, is the ability to feel proud of the work they do. So highlight that word by slowing it down or giving it more volume. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Great. So would you mind doing it one more time?
Of course.
One more time. Yep. And so this time through, you know your content. It felt like it was freely flowing through you. It didn't feel like you were getting lost in your words. So this time through, what I'd love for you to do is just think about your tempo. And when you get to a word that means a lot to you, just go ahead and slow down a hair, a skosh. Yeah?
Okay.
Great.
Oh, God. Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Deville. I'm from UK office, and I'm a captain of UK recruitment, which I'm going to talk about more today. So recruitment is at the center of Nextium's life in Q4. That's the time when we recruit top talent from top universities. And what I'm excited the two things that I'm most excited in Q4 about recruitment. So first of all, it's because all next jumpers get to participate in the recruitment process. And it makes me so proud to see people pitch next jump, to really understand how they describe the environment where we're in, and also how they try to attract the other candidates. Secondly, I love that we all get to participate in recruitment process, as well as to really say whether the person gets to join our family or not. Thank you.
Great.
Oh, God.
Great. Oh, you're doing such a great job. You're doing such a great job. I can imagine it is absolutely nerve-wracking to get up and actually describe to people what you do.
That was that was so difficult because I had to like forget the content and think about like slowing down on those 3 words, and then I go like, when did I say those 3 words?
Yes, you're right. So you actually bring up a good point, which is, as with any skill you're trying to implement, it takes practice, and you have to be willing to kind of get in the mud and get a little messy with it before it becomes second nature. So I don't really think I could do any of the things you guys do, but I imagine that if I asked you to teach me and my goal was to become an expert at it, you would start with some very basic principle of, I don't know, you're in graphic design, so I have absolutely no talent for that. So if I was asking you to teach me how to use a program, for example, we would have to start with like how to save the file. And then and then eventually I would know how to save the file. I wouldn't even think about it anymore. So when you're first getting into practicing these ideas, it might feel a little like that. And eventually it will become second nature, which is why I'm going to encourage you to practice all the time. So see what happens when you go to Starbucks and you say, I'd like a caramel latte with extra whipped cream. You can have a lot of fun with it. So you can practice these things in your life. But we did notice on the word proud, that was a moment where you were so sure of your content and sure about your feeling that slowing down there really did make that word count. And I don't necessarily believe that you have to parse every word in your script. I mean, in fact, that's one of the reasons why I came in today. So I'm not doing my PowerPoint. I threw it out last night, just like I threw out my speech that time. Oh, I got that job, by the way. Because I didn't want to stick to my script. I know my content. I didn't want to be beholden to going in the order of the slides. So I just kind of let it go. And my guess is that for DeVille, if you practice that speech enough, you're going to know it so well that you can pay attention to these other ideas. So let's give her a round of applause. Hey. Excellent. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is freeing your body and committing to body language that better supports the ideas you're trying to communicate. So earlier we talked about eye contact. I'm going back to eye contact because your eyes are part of your body and are therefore part of body language. So that's a friendly reminder to lead with your eyes. One of the things I have noticed in speakers, especially when there's a room that's wider than this one and you've got audience going much farther, it's important to remember that your body really needs to follow your eyes so you don't end up getting stuck. So let your eyes lead. I mean, if any of you practice yoga or other exercise forms, your trainers always say, follow your eyes to get a farther twist, right? Okay, so what we're gonna look at with our bodies is the idea of communicating to other people that you are confident, that you're present, that you're open. So we're gonna look at open versus closed. You probably feel differently about me when I stand like this. We're going to look at tempo again in terms of moving quickly and moving slowly. And we're also gonna look at stillness versus in motion. So I'm gonna go ahead and write those down in case y'all feel like taking notes. So we're talking about open. Ooh, that should be an N. Closed. Fast. Slow. Still. In motion. Now, with the exception of using closed in order to make a point about staying open, that's the only of these 6 things that I think we might want to look to remove from our physical vocabulary. But have any of you ever seen, well, they do a great sketch of it on SNL, the moment when Oprah gives away the free stuff and like people's heads explode? And okay, there it is. She gets so excited that her body moves really, really quickly. She goes, each of you is gonna get a new car! And that's exciting, and it gets the audience revved up. But if I came into you today and I said, I really wanna talk to you about facts and figures, you might think I'm crazy. So there are times for both of these extremes. Actually, I just repeated a gesture 3 times. And I would say that was not slow. I could have said both of these extremes. Yep, you see my dance background there. Okay, in terms of open and closed, I'm sure you all have heard of or watched at this point that great Amy Cuddy talk on power poses. So I'll just tell you to do that homework and watch that. I really find it life-changing to know that your openness and the way other people perceive you, it's not just in our minds, it's actually in science. So yay for that presentation, please watch it. But you feel it right away when someone is available to you or is shut off. So if you are someone who tends to come in and not know what to do with your arms or not know where to put your hands, very often what people do is they protect themselves and close their arms. They cross their arms because at least now I don't need to use them. So what I'm going to encourage you to do instead is find a way to be open. And that may mean, pardon me, I'm going to put this mic down for a second. If you have access to both of your hands, if you don't have a mic, it could be as simple as if you need something to tell yourself to do, this is a lot more effective than this. And eventually you're going to want to break the habit of getting to here, but it's a starting point. It's a place to start so that we know we're at least not covering ourselves. And your heart is hidden under there, people. Expose your heart for the world to see. Yes, great. So open and closed. And then still versus in motion. So stillness is a very powerful tool. And in fact, I like to think of stillness as a gesture, that it can be as effective a gesture as like a grand gesture. So I encourage stillness. However, there are times where it makes a lot of sense to cross your space. Now, because of the configuration of this space, me going over here and then walking this way is actually going to be harder for you to follow me than if I kind of plant myself between the 2 tables. But let's say this was a clear space and you were all seated in a more traditional stadium seating style, and someone on that side asked me a question and I wanted to respond, it would make a lot of sense for me to actually go ahead and cross the space. So my husband and I are both theater directors, and we kind of have a saying when we are directing a play, which is if you want to take 2 steps, take 4 steps, and if you want to take 1 step, stand still. Yeah? Because if you want to take 2 steps, your body is telling you you have somewhere to go. There's actually something motivating you to that other place. So if you had asked me a question and I wanted to close the gap between us, it makes a lot of sense to actually go all the way there instead of stopping myself. But if I just take 1 step, I'm not actually going anywhere. That's just me being nervous and expelling my nervous energy that way. So I'm going to feel the floor under my feet and exist in being uncomfortable. That's also something to practice, being uncomfortable. Maybe you'll conquer it someday, and if you do, let me know and tell me how. All right, great. So what I want to do is bring Francesca up. Yay! I heard you were leading the exercise group.
Oh, yeah.
That's so impressive. Cool. So I'm going to hand you the mic. Oh, I just realized I never really talked about what to do with a mic. So a mic is like an amazing security blanket because you can really hide behind it by placing both hands on it. So I'm going to encourage you to go one-handed and leave your other hand free to help articulate your points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
So the biggest project I'm working on right now is Flagship, and it's sort of twofold. So projects internally, upgrading our space. We did the garden, the spin studio, now moving on to the yoga studio, converting Incredibles. So looking forward to seeing that, hopefully. And then the second part of that is looking for our new space and looking for architects to work with. That's turning out to be one of the bigger challenges that I'm having, but I'm excited to get the opportunity to work through that and understand and learn a lot of things that I never knew about before. And
Great.
it's like 2 minutes.
Okay, so hang out with me up here.
Okay, that was wonderful. You did a great job with the eye contact part, especially. How did you feel? Not whether or not you liked it, but how did you feel? Did you feel secure in the information that was being presented? Were there times that you were not as confident about the information that was being presented? This is about your experience, not about her. So if you have something to share, go for it.
You can be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
The hopefully thing that you said after you made whatever statement it was, like set me back. Does that mean hopefully you're like
Oh, right. So we were leading in a certain direction, and then it felt like we were really going there until we maybe weren't. Okay, that's totally fair. Anyone else? It was a bit fast. Great. Anyone else? Okay. So what I noticed is that everything you were saying is something that, as an outsider, I find to be completely amazing. Like what is going on with your changing where you guys are working and how you're doing it and going up to the roof and like what? That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So the first thing I would tell you is it's okay to share with people how excited you are about the work that you do because then it gets them excited about the work that you do. So that's part of the starting with why. I mean, this company is so good at that. So if you can remember why Next Jump is even making these changes, it will help you to kind of express your passion for the project. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I thought you did a great job of standing your ground. You felt really sturdy and like I couldn't knock you over, which was good. Something that I noticed is that you were animated, probably because you're excited about your project. And I would tell you to go even farther in communicating that. So what was happening is these physical impulses were starting, and then you were stopping them down here by your hip, instead of actually allowing a full follow through. Do you play golf? Tennis? Anyone? Anyone play things where you hit balls around? Okay, great. So the art of the follow through is that you can only get your ball where you actually want it to go if you follow through all the way with your swing. So when you feel a physical impulse, let's just, as an experiment, see, every time you feel like you want to move your left arm, I want you to extend it all the way. And we're probably going way over the top right now. What I like to always do is go too far and then pull it back. Instead of creeping towards the finish line, just like to leap right over it, and then we'll pull it back, okay? Let's do it again.
I don't exactly remember what I said.
Oh,
so.
It doesn't
Okay,
need to
so
be
it's-
verbatim.
Okay.
Tell us about the project. It's so exciting.
So the project that I'm working on right now is Project Flagship. Inside our office, we have the garden, the spin studio. Upstairs, we're going to be building the yoga studio. And what we're moving on to next is building out our new space where we can really realize the vision of like the projects and programs that we have in Next Jump in our physical space. So even on the rooftop, looking at how do we build a swimming pool. I don't know if any of you guys have heard yet, but those crazy sort of ideas that have been brewing here for a while, seeing that in our physical space now.
Great. Okay, excellent. So that felt a little more physically free. And now I'm going to make you do it a third time. And now what I want you to do this time is, who's your closest friend in this room? Just curious. James. Okay, so this is actually great because James is all the way at the other side. I want for you to know that James is here as an ally for you. And anytime you start to feel nervous about what you're saying, you're going to look at James and you're going to reach to him and deliver it to him like it is the thing that he wants most in the world. A saltwater pool, right? On the roof, okay? So that's number one, is you're going to make James your ally. And number two, can someone here be a volunteer? Great. What's your name? Roshan? Okay, so if this is 10 and this is 1, we're going to move on a scale of tempo. So you don't know what order her content's going to come in, and it doesn't really even matter. So what you're going to do is, as he moves his hand, you're going to either get faster or slower. And we'll just see what happens. So feel free to use the whole scale, but also feel free to jump between extremes, okay? So you're looking at him for your directive with tempo, and then if you start to feel like, whoa, I'm out of sorts, write to James, who's totally got your back, okay? So this is fast and this is slow.
Okay. Wait. So I'm going to talk to you about the flagship project that we're doing right now. And what we're doing inside our office is building the garden, the spin studio, the yoga studio upstairs. We'll be looking to build out our new space upstairs. And upstairs we'll have the pool, sorry, I'm like, the pool, there'll be outdoor seating, the vision to really have a community center in our own space where you can bring your family, your friends, and Next Jump becomes this holistic space.
Great. Oh, you did such a good job. You did such a good job. Okay, so what did you see that time? Any changes worth pointing out? Yes. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
She seemed more calmer and a little more slower than the previous time.
Yeah. More calm, slower. Yeah. You were going to say,
I like the tempo changes. It felt more dynamic.
Yes, I agree. So one of the things that I have found, just even in preparing to be here today, is working in a bubble is a danger zone. You probably agree with that, considering the way you guys work here. I always will run something by someone else before I actually put it in its final form. So if I remember correctly from our culture tour, everyone has a buddy of some sort. So that buddy, what do you guys call them here? TP. So your TP could be a great person to practice your presentation skills with. And you could actually make a little deck of cards where you put all of these things on there: fast, slow, high, low, loud, soft, open, close, fast, slow, still, in motion. Just shuffle them, lay them out, and you can just be random about it and see what it feels like to go through those things and get feedback from your TP about whether or not it made you a more effective or less effective communicator. These are things that do have to be practiced, but when they are practiced, they can become such great tools. Thank you so much. Yay. I can't believe I'm actually on time. This is so exciting. Yay. So as I mentioned, I don't like working in a bubble. So I'll just share with you that originally I was going to do a PowerPoint. I was going to open with another story, and I had the content in a different order, and I did a run through of this yesterday with some friends of mine who gave me such great feedback. And feedback is a tool to help free you. So you don't have to sit there wondering whether or not it's going to work out, because you go in with a sense of confidence because someone else has experienced your information and has said, yes, that made sense to me, or no, that was way too actory, or well, I don't know if any of you would get that note, but I got that note yesterday. That language is way too actory, or that story is really interesting but doesn't necessarily make that point. So all of this is great feedback. I want to talk quickly about freeing your mind. It's a less tangible idea than speaking more slowly or articulating with a grander gesture, but it's really, really important. So over the years, I've come to develop a couple tools that I use regularly as a practice. I'll share them with you, try them out. If they work for you, great, make them your own. If they don't, toss them in the garbage, that's fine too, I don't take it personally. So I was in New York on 9/11, which I'm sure many of you were, and it was a time that was so odd, scary, and I started developing these very severe phobias. I didn't want to go in the Lincoln Tunnel, I did not want to travel over a bridge, and I had developed an insane fear of flying, which was so odd for me because I love to travel. It's like one of my favorite things to do. So getting on a plane became a really debilitating experience. So much so, in fact, that in 2002, I bought a plane ticket to surprise my mother for her birthday. My parents live in California. I got to JFK, I went through security, and I had determined somehow that I didn't like the method the security officer was using to get people through security. So I got to the gate, and I decided not to get on the plane. I literally called my mother from the airport and said, well, I was gonna surprise you, but I'm not. So I'm just letting you know so you can let Dad know not to go to the airport to pick me up. Like, that was how insane the fear was. And I knew I could not live that way anymore. I didn't want to never see my parents again, and I want to travel the world. That's a passion of mine. So I remembered that I had a teacher once who said to me, you always have the choice. You can choose fear or you can choose faith. And those are your two choices. That's it. Fear and faith. And the choice is up to you. So what I decided to do was figure out if I could turn that into an exercise for myself. And I did. So I would go on the plane. I actually fly a lot now. I would get onto the plane and I would call out my fear by its name. Not like for all to hear. This was my internal monologue. Let's be clear about that. I would say, okay, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid that this plane is going to crash. And I would say, okay, I have faith in the people who built the plane. I have faith in the training and experience of the pilots. I have faith that I have so much more left to give to the world, and I have faith that I'm going to be reunited with my family in 5 hours. And just the act of saying what I was afraid of and then realizing that I also had so much faith about my position in the world and the life I had to live, it made a huge difference. So if you're experiencing fear, you're waiting to give your presentation and you go, oh my God, what if people don't like me? Okay, I'm afraid that people aren't going to like me. I have faith that I'm good at connecting with people, or I have faith in all of the friends that have chosen to be my friend because they like me. Yeah, or I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my place and I'm not going to have anything to say. I have faith in my ability to speak extemporaneously because I do it all day, every day in conversation. So to just see what your choices are and then make a choice. And I would encourage you to choose the faith side, but you do you, you do you. Okay, and then the other free your mind tool is what I like to call my internal Google Translator. So I am in the position of giving feedback to people all day, every day, either at my acting studio or as a theater director. I mean, all I do is basically tell people what I think of their work and how it can get better. And so one of the things I've learned over the years is that if I include a word like don't, can't, won't, mustn't, shouldn't, we're dead in the water. Not only because it's negative, but because I haven't given them any actual direction. I can say to someone, don't cross your arms, but that there's so many other options other than crossing your arms that it's almost debilitating because there are too many choices. So don't look down. Well, where do I look? So instead of talking to yourself in don't, can't, won't language, run it through your internal Google Translator and output in the language of positive. So don't look down becomes do make eye contact. Don't cross your arms becomes do open your arms. And if you're receiving feedback from some outside source, you can also run their feedback through your internal Google Translator to output in positive. So is anyone in here a parent? Okay. So when I had my daughter, who's almost 6, I had become kind of an expert in this Google Translator thing at my studio, and I realized that as I was talking to my daughter, I was not very good at putting things in the positive. We kind of train our kids really young. Don't cry, don't be afraid, don't touch that. And I made a conscious effort to really try to translate into positive things so I could empower her to make better choices instead of to just stop in her tracks. I found it to be a really useful parenting tool too. And actually all of these tools are useful in the real world. So instead of don't be afraid, do find your courage. Do look for the things that excite you about this. Does that make sense? Cool. We have like 5 minutes for questions if there are any. And I just want to encourage you to really practice these ideas in real life, not just in presenting, but in real life. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap?
Next
Oh,
one.
Deville, yeah.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing session, and we often read and basically talk about it, but when it comes from so credible like you, we really start thinking about your body language and voice, etc. So what I noticed when you ran the entire session that you barely used filler words like and that's what a lot of us do. And I honestly have not. I don't know many people that actually can avoid them. So what is your practice to try to avoid basically those filler words?
That is such a great question. Is for me, if I hear it come out of my mouth, I hear it very loudly. Whenever I say I catch myself saying it. So one of the things is that I try to speak at a tempo that allows me to pause if I don't have something to say or if I've lost my place. When you're moving very quickly through a sentence and you lose what you're doing, your body it's kind of like that happening. Did that make sense? So I was rattling really quickly and I didn't have something to say, so I went to Instead of, it's kind of like, and I was searching for an image in my head of something being shot out of a cannon and then hitting a wall. That's what I was trying to look for, but I was going so quickly that I didn't give myself time to slow down, find the image, and describe it. Instead, I got caught up in being ahead of myself, which is why I landed on Does that make sense? So slowing down really, really helps. And then this is also something to practice, perhaps with your TP. I sometimes will record myself talking and listen back. And if you can figure out the pattern of when you insert an you can break the pattern. That's the thing about patterns is I don't believe in bad habits. Every habit we develop was for some sort of survival reason. So if you can figure out what the reason is, and for some people it's because they're afraid of their content or somebody just walked in and it distracted them. There are so many different reasons why we land on or other filler words like. We're on a mission in my house right now to banish the word like in inappropriate usage from our lives. We also don't allow air quotes in my house. Okay, that was an because I didn't know where I was going to go with that. So that just popped out of my mouth. So you can become conscious of it figure out why. So in that moment, it was because I didn't know where I was going next. And then give yourself permission to, in those moments, slow down so you can collect your thoughts. The truth is, if you are confident, or even just projecting confidence, people will wait for you to come up with your thoughts. If you are plowing through and projecting something like, I can't wait to get off this stage, then people will not really wait for you. Does that make sense? Did that answer it, DeVille?
Yeah, really helpful. Just need to practice it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. And back to work. Thank you.